Well, some good news out of Secretary Kerry's unannounced visit to Afghanistan. The fate of a preliminary security deal between the United States and Afghanistan now in the hands of Afghan tribal leaders. Secretary of State John Kerry and the President Hamid Karzai announced this deal after 2 days of talks, and it would keep some American forces in Afghanistan past the withdrawal deadline the president announced by the end of next year. One point of contention, though, still is the issue of jurisdiction over American forces charged with committing crimes. We will keep you posted.
And now, Jamie, to Iran and the negotiations over its disputed nuclear program that begin on Tuesday in Geneva. Tehran announcing its own red line on its nuclear program, saying that it will not agree to ship out its stockpile of enriched uranium. It's believed they have about 2/3 needed to make a possible nuclear bomb. And you know that recent charm offensive by Iranian President Hassan Rouhani at the UN General Assembly? Well, that set the bar very high for these talks. He has claimed that his nation is open for compromise on a potential deal. But despite the supposedly friendlier image, Iran keeps growing its enriched uranium stockpile and continues to refuse to obey 6 UN Security Council resolutions to stop. And predictions say Iran could potentially have enough material for a possible bomb in just months, or at least within a year. Fox News contributor John Bolton, former ambassador to the United Nations and senior fellow at the American Enterprise Institute, joins us. Ambassador, good morning.
Good morning. Glad to be with you, Eric.
What do you expect could happen, if anything, at these talks that start on Tuesday?
Well, I'm very worried that both the Obama administration and the European Union are prepared to give way on a number of key points, notably the economic sanctions. I think they're hungry for a deal. I think Iran senses that the Obama administration in particular is hungry for a deal, and therefore the tactic that Iran will use will be to call to sequence concessions, so that the first concession will be a weakening of the sanctions. Iran will make promises that are superficial but not give way. I'm very worried that that's the direction we're taking, and that will lead to legitimizing Iran's nuclear weapons program in effect.
Well, let's take a look at the list of some of the demands that are on Iran right now. We have this list, and it seems that they've already given up that one to stop uranium enrichment. One of the first demands is that they actually reduce uranium enrichment from 20% down to 5%. So they've already thrown that demand to stop out the window. Also to close its underground facilities, to ship that material out of the country, which they've already said no to, and open up their facilities to full UN inspection. So, Ambassador, have they already said, like, well, never mind, we didn't really mean it when we told you to stop?
I think they're very close to that point. You know, the president has already said, our president, that Iran has the right to a peaceful nuclear program. That is just flatly wrong. Iran has been seeking nuclear weapons for over 20 years in violation of the commitments it made under the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. There's no evidence whatever their credibility is any better now than it has been for the last 20 years, or why we should believe the latest promise that they won't go for nuclear weapons. And let me just say on this enrichment issue, this question of 20% enrichment as a concession that Iran might make is an utter red herring. It is flatly wrong as a matter of physics. It's a complete misrepresentation of what having any uranium enrichment capability can give to Iran, namely a breakout capability to weapons in a short period of time. Nuclear physicists don't believe in the concept of medium-enriched uranium, which is a term journalists now use all the time. It is a complete red herring based on bad physics, bad policy, bad diplomacy.
Our delegation will be headed by the #3 official in the State Department, Wendy Sherman, and she's been an official for quite a long time. Back in the 90s, from 1999 to 1997 to 2001, she was the special advisor to President Clinton on policy and coordination on North Korea. Oops, I mean, remember that deal with North Korea and their nuclear program in exchange for oil and food? What can Ms. Sherman do now differently with Tehran that did not work with Pyongyang?
Well, maybe learn from the mistakes that the Clinton administration made back then. I remember when the Bush administration was coming in, we learned that in secret the Clinton administration had offered North Korea to launch satellites for it if North Korea would give up its ballistic missile program. This is a view, this is a mindset that, as you mentioned, also in the case of North Korea, we were prepared to build the North Koreans' nuclear reactors. If I were an Iranian negotiator, I'd be popping my orange juice bottle in anticipation of sitting down with this crew.
So finally, Ambassador, how do we know if the Iranians are actually sincere? What should we look for to find out if they're not?
Well, I don't think there's really any way here. This is a government you cannot trust, and Iran is a big enough country you cannot verify. The only long-term solution here is regime change. Obviously, that's not what Obama wants. And in the short term, I think Iran is going to come out of this with a legitimized nuclear program and a capability to break out to nuclear weapons at a time entirely of its own choosing. I'm afraid we're facing a huge defeat for the cause of anti-proliferation.
Well, don't you think the administration would want regime change potentially? I mean, that seems almost though impossible.
Well, you know, they have done absolutely nothing during the entire 4.5 years they've been in office, beginning with the fraudulent elections in Iran in 2009, when weeks went by before the administration spoke out. They've got a fascination with this Islamic revolution in Tehran. That's why they've been trying for 4.5 years to negotiate with it. I think it's going to leave the United States and our friends like Israel in the Middle East in a gravely weakened security position.
Success? Yes or no?
No success from the American point of view. I think in Iran they're getting ready for the victory parades.
All right, U.S. Ambassador John Bolton, 48 hours and those talks beginning. Ambassador, as always, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Eric.